I think what made me continue on with this book is that what I was saying and what I was feeling was no different than what everybody else feels and has gone through. And that's why I want to be very clear in the beginning of the book that you're going to read a lot of me, my's, I, but please replace them with you and see where you identify with the stories that I tell. And maybe you can get through it the same way, or maybe you can DM me and tell me how you got through it so I can have some more tools in my toolbox.
And will you get those dumb frogs out of here?
Those are my dumb frogs. They're my patients. I'm a veterinarian.
I think your patients just croaked.
Valerie Bertinelli became a household name in the mid-'70s, playing Barbara Cooper on the hit sitcom One Day at a Time. Today, the 61-year-old actress is also an Emmy Award-winning host for the Food Network, whose latest season of Kids Baking Championship premiered last December.
Welcome to Kids Baking Championship!
And a best-selling author who just released her third memoir, Enough Already, Learning to Love the Way I Am Today.
Well, I plan to write a book about finding joy. What I didn't realize is the path to joy is through all of this really uncomfortable crap. And until you go through the uncomfortableness, joy is just a lot harder to come out. I also realized that my innateness is joy. But it's been covered up so much by all of the external voices that then became internal voices about how I wasn't doing anything right and I was doing it wrong and I wasn't good enough and be quiet a little bit more, you're too loud, okay, now you're not talking enough. Because you know, your brain is always looking for validation for what it's feeling. And so when I would hear the negative feedback, I'd be like, yeah, see, right? I'm right. This is all the things I'm doing wrong. But when you start internalizing all the good stuff you are, then your brain starts to hear the good voices externally as well, and then that validates how you feel. So I feel like I'm yelling. I hope I'm not yelling. But maybe I should yell it from the rooftops, you know? Listen to the good voices. Those are the voices that are right. Sometimes those negative voices will protect you, so find out what it is that it's trying to protect you from in its own little way. But all in all, just listen to the little girl who was never heard or the little boy that was never heard and just needed to be heard and loved.
One of the many topics Valerie discusses in the book is her relationship with food and how she's learned happiness isn't tied to a specific weight.
There is no magic number. There's no magic number that will make me feel good about myself. I finally realized that because no matter what the number on the scale told me in the morning, it was never good enough, it was more awful than I could have ever wanted, or I wasn't thin enough even though it was a good number. So nothing ever made me happy. So what's gonna make me happy? Love. And I can't feel love for anybody if I don't start feeling it for myself. And that was the hardest path to start walking on. And I'm still walking on it, and it's a real bitch of a path because I don't always feel that way.
Valerie also writes about her relationship with legendary guitarist Eddie Van Halen, who died in 2020 after a long battle with cancer. The couple was married for 26 years, from 1981 to 2007, and had one child together, the now 30-year-old musician Wolfgang Van Halen.
I was able to, after 40 years, get a better perspective on Ed's and my relationship. And I'm so grateful that we got to the point we did before he had to leave us. I wish I'd had more time with him. I mean, especially with everything that's going on for Wolfie right now and how I know how proud he is. When Wolf was nominated for a Grammy, the first person I wanted to call was Ed. And it was really hard not to be able to enjoy it with him. But it's nice to have perspective. It's really important, and it's so challenging to do when you're in the middle of it. I mean, I was so angry at him for so long. He was so angry at me for so long. And the opposite of anger and hate is love. We've always loved each other. It never stopped. Maybe it started simply because we met each other when we were so young, and then it just built from there. we just had this connection that I've never really had with anyone else. But it wasn't perfect. It was, there was a lot of messed up stuff that happened because of external influences and pains that neither one of us, and traumas that neither one of us really worked through. I do know that with what I know now, I think I would have been a lot more patient helping him through all of his trauma that made him go to his toolbox, which had alcohol and drugs in it, to soothe his traumas and not deal with it. I have a different toolbox to deal with my own trauma. It's not filled with a lot of great things yet, but I'm filling it up with really good things, you know. So that's definitely helpful. I just think I'd be a lot more patient, maybe, to see the trauma and not the abuse. Not the way he abused himself, but how he was abused, and that's how he dealt with his pain. The pain isn't as sharp on a daily level. The pain is still there, will always be there until I see him again. But it's not as sharp, it's dulled a bit, which I'm grateful for, you know. And then there are times that just like slap you in the face, like when Wolfie got nominated for a Grammy. It's like, oh God. Ed and I would be jumping up and down, hugging, kissing, just like, can you believe our baby boy? So, and he would be telling, yes, I believe it, because I knew it, he knew it all along. So, you know, little things like that you really miss. You know, I'm gonna miss him when Wolfie decides to get married. I'm gonna miss him when Wolf has children, I hope. You know, all the milestones. We really did grow up together. And we really got to a really good place, you know? Cancer. Excuse me, am I allowed to swear?
Valerie and her second husband, businessman Tom Vitale, were married in 2011. But last November, after 10 years of marriage, Valerie filed for legal separation.
Well, I do want to be sensitive to Tom, and that he is not a public figure. So I don't think it's fair that I have this platform to be able to talk about it and he does not. And I think we've made a pact that we weren't going to talk about it. But I also think that just like the way I wrote about Ed in the first book that I wrote and then this book, I have a lot more perspective. And because Tom and I were going through everything we've been going through for the last few years, it wouldn't be fair of me to use all those emotions to try to explain something that really doesn't matter in the long run, because I do still love him and I only wish the best for him, and I know he feels the same way about me. It's just, I mean, who knows why relationships don't work out? It's always a shame.
Valerie's ongoing journey has been about learning each and every day, which is why she chose to subtitle her book, Learning to Love the Way I Am Today.
Because today changes every single day, so it's always a learning process. And one of my favorite things to do in the world is learn. So why not have fun and learn about myself, since I love learning so many other things. And I don't think I'll stop learning until the day I die, and I'm okay with that. I just hope, what I really hope and wish and pray for everybody, that as long as I start with love, and all my intention starts with love, it just changes the perspective on everything. No matter how awful things can be, there's always a loving way to look at something. And it starts within. There's always a loving way to look at yourself as opposed to beating yourself up. I hope that's what people take away from the book, learning how to love themselves and not beat themselves up so much anymore, because that's not working.